as well as the political editor for HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. So lovely to see you both. Thanks very much indeed for joining me. So let's kick off on what is an array of front pages focusing on Prince Andrew and the decision that he give up his titles. Over pretty much all of the front pages. I think the Financial Times perhaps not leading with it, but apart from that, it's pretty uniform. You picked out the Daily Mail to kick us off. They say Andrew falls on his sword.
Yeah, and it was interesting. One royal commentator earlier on I saw was saying it's not so much he fell on his sword as was pushed onto his sword. I mean, this is not voluntary. This is something that the King has basically told him is happening. And it's been dressed up as a mutual decision, but it doesn't sound very mutual at all. I mean, I think probably if it had been up to him, he'd have kept on hold of these titles for as long as possible. But yeah, I mean, it is fairly dramatic. And the fact, I think, that it's on every front page, it's the perfect story for the Saturday papers because it dropped late on Friday. So most people will be actually getting their news, unusually these days, from the newspaper. You know, most people on a Friday night probably didn't even notice this was happening. So, yeah, I mean, it's chapter and verse everywhere, and it's an ignominious end to his time in the royal family. He's effectively out of the royal family now.
Yeah, and some people may not have heard of some of the titles that he did have, but that he's giving up. The Mail here lists some of it. They say that he'll no longer be known as the Duke of York. He's also stepping down from membership of the Order of the Garter, the country's most ancient order of chivalry, and he'll relinquish his position as Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victoria Order, but he will in fact remain a prince. And I think, as I understand it, I don't know a lot about all the kind of the details of royal family rules, but he will keep that title because he was born into the royal family.
That's right, and I think there was the letters of patent from the last century that the Queen updated in 2012, which means that he can't lose that title, basically, of being a prince. But it essentially doesn't mean any royal duties or responsibilities for him at all. The only thing that seems to be remaining is his residency in the Royal Lodge, which is this kind of massive place on the royal estate. But he's apparently got a private tenancy agreement with the Crown Estate for about 100 years, as long as he can keep up the maintenance costs there, which he has done so far. How long he manages that is an open question,
and
I think.
How he manages...
And how he manages
gets
that.
that income, who knows?
Exactly, because the last thing you want is kind of a disgraced, desperate royal looking for money, because as well as in the papers, there's links to the Chinese side of things. You know, we had that spy scandal at the end of last year, Yang Tenbo. There's an alleged spy who was, you know, making these business deals with Andrew's help. And of course, with the Chinese spy story this week, it's come out that Andrew has actually met Tai Chi, who is the Politburo Standing Committee member, who was meant to be receiving all of this intelligence as well. So I don't think we want him to be too desperate for money either. And to keep him on a bit of a close eye on that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you refer to some of the allegations against him, sort of uncomfortable links potentially with Chinese spies or alleged spies, but also it's his associations with Jeffrey Epstein that have really done the damage.
Yeah, it was the stories last weekend about the email contact that he maintained with Jeffrey Epstein 2 months after he had previously said he had cut off all contact. I mean, it's, once again, hugely embarrassing, not just for him, but for the royal family and for the King. And I think the King just did not want the ongoing drip, drip, drip of scandals overshadowing his time on the throne.
Yes, and with Virginia Giuffre, his accuser, he always denies any impropriety whatsoever, but her posthumous memoir is coming out next week as well, so the suggestion that perhaps that's why it has been timed like this. But Cindy, take us on to the front page of the Daily Mirror. They have a very straight headline, Andrew quits Duke title, but there's a little bit more of a sense of where the pressure has come from here.
Yes, exactly, and it's not just King Charles, but also Prince William, and the Mirror says, among other senior royals we understand is people like Princess Anne as well, which I think that Mail on Sunday exposure, the Giuffre memoir coming out, and the feeling that this story is not going to go away unless something decisive is done about Andrew. Now, while the late Queen was alive, that was difficult. Now, I think King Charles and Prince William really don't want this to be hanging over their heads anymore. You know, William may be facing taking the throne with this uncle still around if they didn't take decisive action. So, yeah, I think it really was very much a group decision to make him do something that he probably otherwise wouldn't have done by himself.
And it was interesting, was it the Duchess of Kent's funeral just recently, wasn't it, when Andrew turned up? And that was quite a surprise to see him there with the royals, and the body language. You saw him try to strike up a conversation with Prince William, and you could tell Prince William was not interested. So I think that backs up what Cindy's saying, that he wouldn't have wanted this hanging around when he...
and he won't be seen at that kind of family occasion anymore.
Completely ostracised, can't turn up for Christmas, anything like that. And it's interesting as well, his wife, Sarah Ferguson, she's stripped of her Duchess of York title, but King Charles has allowed their children, Beatrice and Eugenie, to keep their titles, because according to the papers, he's very fond of them.
Yeah, that line's in the Times, actually. Let's take a look at the Times. They've got lots of detail on this. And obviously, King Charles has a certain amount of sympathy for Princess Eugenie and Beatrice, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And this must be extremely embarrassing for them.
Of course, yeah. And I guess King Charles' attitude will be, well, it's not their fault. You know, they've not done anything wrong. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the Times have really gone to town on it. Some great coverage. They point out, for instance, that in the summer, a YouGov poll showed that 67% of people favoured stripping him of the title, so quite a lot of public support for this. And also, just going back to the Royal Lodge situation, they're saying one other thing that he could do as a sort of sacrifice, self-sacrifice for the greater good of the monarchy, they say, is to give up Royal Lodge voluntarily. I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath. I think, you know, he wants to hang on to that for as long as humanly possible.
He knows, right? I mean, this is part of the, you know, going away from just what's happened in the last 12 hours, part of this situation is that you've got this man who's not had any hard skills or work experience his entire life, other than royal duties. He has no way to make a life for himself, no way to make a living for himself, except using his networks and his background. And now all of that has been stripped away from him. He's getting old anyway. It is all he knows is a gilded cage, and what do you do when you're disgraced but you can't leave that cage? It is, you know, I do find that part of things a fascinating development on the monarchy as a situation itself, and a Beatrice and Eugenie parts as well. The fact that they have stripped down working royals with the departure of Harry and Meghan as well, you know, younger generation princesses like them are really, really important to keep up those royal responsibilities within this system.
And turning to the Daily Express briefly, finally, they also talk about him stepping aside from his titles, but he's not formally be stripped of them because that might involve a rather embarrassing parliamentary session.
Yeah, and the Express has a really interesting line saying that he made that decision to avoid the king taking parliamentary action. So, OK, going back to what Kevin was saying about being pushed onto a sword, you know, it does sound like the king basically said to him, unless you do this yourself, I'm going to take much more drastic action, and it'll be much more humiliating and effort, you know, lots of more effort for everyone involved.
And what a story it would be, you know, if I had to go to the House of Commons.
And we should remind everybody that while he says he's stepping aside, he still continues to vigorously deny the accusations against me in his statement. Plenty more of this and other stories next hour. Thank you so much.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not